The march of time is relentless, and music is not immune. Pop music ebbs and flows like the tides, pulling in new influences, rejecting old tired tropes, and blending styles and trends together in unique and innovative ways. In its current incarnation, pop music is known for its simplicity and its basic chord progressions, often being relentlessly scrutinized and criticized for these characteristics. From these shadows emerges the unyielding genius of pop sensation Olivia Rodrigo. Let's talk about it. What's up guys, my name is Konner, and today I have gathered you all here to talk about the brilliance that is Olivia Rodrigo's hit song, Vampire. If you're unfamiliar with Olivia Rodrigo, she's a pop singer-songwriter from Murrieta, California. She found her footing in the cultural zeitgeist starring in various Disney shows, and then she blew the music world away when she released the song Driver's License in January of 2021. Since then, she's released two full-length albums, Sour in 2021 and Guts in 2023. Vampire, the song we'll be discussing today, was the lead single off of Guts, released in late June of last year. Olivia wrote and produced this song with Dan Nigro, who's been her primary producer basically since she started in music. So, what's the big deal? Why does this song matter? It seems to me that modern music is moving in a really interesting and fun direction. I think Vampire is the perfect example of that. If you listen to the song, the first thing you'll probably notice is that Olivia Rodrigo's kind of upset. She actually discussed in an interview with the publication Uproxx that the song is based on true events in her life, and that she just sat down at the piano one day and it all just came out. So what we can gather from that is that she had some experience with somebody that she saw real romantic potential in, and then came to find out that her love interest was just using her for the clout, trying to capitalize on the following and popularity she'd garnered since the release of Driver's License. This is where the vampire metaphor comes from. She compares this person to a vampire just sucking the life out of her, contributing nothing of value, and just using her for their own personal gain. There's something kind of cool about this right away. The song subject is not super relatable. Not that many people have had to deal with becoming super popular and famous, and then having people come into their life who try to take advantage of that. However, the raw emotion and the core message behind that, the idea that you can be used by somebody that you love and respect, and it can feel like your world is crashing down when you realize it. I think most people have had an experience like that. And Olivia Rodrigo in this song just perfectly captures the anger and bewilderment that comes along with that realization. So in general, Olivia Rodrigo's MO seems to be writing songs at the person that she's upset about. This is a common theme in her music. She relies very heavily on second person. It's a lot of you did this, or you made me feel that way, or why did you do these things? Now as a songwriting style, this is kind of a gamble. Depending on the song and the subject, you can run the risk of being preachy or alienating your audience. But honestly, to me, it feels like Olivia Rodrigo kind of knows her way around the format, which makes it all the more impressive that she's able to use it so well and so frequently. It's a song full of accusation. You made me look so naive, the way you sold me for parts. I've made some real big mistakes, but you make the worst one look fine. Whoever the other party is that she wrote this song about, she's doing almost nothing but hitting them over the head with these callouts. And honestly, I have no idea who the song is about. She's been very secretive about it. But she's clearly upset, and she bolsters these accusations by asking rhetorical questions. How do you lie without flinching? You said it was true love, but wouldn't that be hard? These almost feel like a plea from her. Like she's trying to encourage the other party to be self-reflective and to understand what they've done and how much it hurt. And frankly, she's kind of walking a razor's edge with this, because she goes so heavy-handed with these accusations, portraying herself as the victim and this other person as a monster, that it's almost overwhelming. And I think what salvages it and makes it actually brilliant instead of unlistenable is the fact that she herself is very self-aware and self-reflective in the song. She admits that she was blind to this person's behavior and that she's made mistakes too. In fact, she includes literally the line, "'cause I made some real big mistakes, but you make the worst one look fine." In the first verse, she says, "I loved you truly, gotta laugh at this stupidity," adding some levity by looking at her former self and just saying, "Ugh,
was so dumb."
Like lots of her songs, the lyrics are very blunt and laced with profanity, which makes them come across a little brash and snarky and conversational. Like she could almost be saying these things verbatim to the person in question. And she really drives the point home in a poetic way with the vampire metaphor. In the chorus, you've got lines like, "You sunk your teeth into me. You only come out at night." And even the line in the first verse, "How's the castle built off people you pretend to care about?" That's a subtle allusion to the vampire metaphor as well, because historically in pop culture, vampires tend to live in castles, mansions, old manors, or estates. So all those lyrical elements combine to give Vampire its very clear and unique identity. And that's only enhanced by the instrumentation in the production. At the very beginning, it seems like the song's just gonna be a sad piano ballad. In fact, Olivia Rodrigo, in the same interview with Uproxx, has discussed how that's how it was intended to be. It wasn't until she sat down with her producer, Dan Nigro, and started working through it, that it began to evolve into what is essentially a modern pop version of a rock opera. All the way through the first verse, all you have is just piano and lead vocal. Very stripped down, very intimate, super emotional. You get to the first chorus, and then slowly these strings and synth pads come in, and they build all the way through the chorus, getting bigger and bigger and more abrasive until boom. They all cut out for the final punch of the last line. And the stripping away of all those elements and only leaving the piano and Olivia's voice in that moment makes that last line, bleeding me dry like a vampire, so much more impactful. And yeah, I know that's not actually the lyric, but this is a family-friendly channel. Okay, then you get to verse 2. It remains pretty sparse, piano and her voice, but this time we have a bass added as well as a 4-to-the-floor kick drum. Boom, boom, boom. The message and her vocals are bolstered by the how do you lie harmonies that happen halfway through that verse. They're just huge and shimmery, and I really love those. You get to chorus 2, and then you have the snare drum coming in, as well as some percussion, some oohs and ahs, other rock operatic elements that make it feel really big and lively. But the really big moment of the song is the bridge. It feels like everything's been building to this point. She gets to the end of the second chorus, and then you've got this thing. These just pounding chords, and it's this beautiful, powerful gateway into the bridge. The bridge through the last chorus, it just keeps things going. Vocally, Olivia's just really pouring her heart out at this moment, and then at the very end of the song, once again, everything drops out for that final moment. But this time, instead of just ending on the word vampire, that really big theme that leads into the bridge comes back, and this time gets even bigger and more chaotic, which I think is the perfect conclusion to the song. Finishing with that really intense, frenetic, sporadic chord mashing, it leaves you feeling just a little uneasy and unsettled, which fits with the theme of the song. We're not supposed to really have resolution here. We're more supposed to just be feeling her frustration. So credit to Dan Nigro, the production is masterful. But despite everything we've talked about so far, to me the thing that really sells this song is the chord progression. The vast majority of pop songs just use some variation of the same 4 diatonic chords. In a given key, you've got the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, and the 6 chord. Probably 85–90% of chords in modern pop, rock, country music are one of those 4. Occasionally you'll also hear the 2 chord or the 3 chord. But anything beyond that, unless you're dealing with some forms of R&B or neo-soul, tends to be pretty uncommon in the pop lane. So let's talk about Vampire's chord progression. This is so interesting because literally of the 4 chords that she uses in the verse, half of those chords, 2 of the 4 are from outside the key. We start off with the 1 chord. Pretty standard, nothing crazy there. Maybe even the most common starting chord in music. But from there, we go to the major 3 chord. Very pretty, but also super intense. Now, there's a purpose that the major 3 chord usually serves. It's supposed to drive you to the 6 chord, which is one of the common ones we discussed. Does Olivia Rodrigo do that? Of course not. She instead goes from the major 3 chord to the 4 chord. Another super common chord within the key, but you don't hear that movement from the major 3 to the 4 super often. But the next switch is really the magic of it. The 4 chord that I just showed you combined with the chord after it might be on my Mount Rushmore of chord movements in pop music. I love this one so much. What she does here is she goes from the 4 chord to the minor version of that chord. I don't know why, but that's so pretty to me. Usually going from a major chord to the same minor chord or vice versa doesn't really work. I'll give you an example. This feels a little weird and like it doesn't quite work. But the major 4 to the minor 4 at the end of a cadence, to me that's one of the most powerful progressions in music. And this is something that happens all throughout this song. Between the major 3 chord and that major 4 to minor 4 transition, those 2 things kind of make up the harmonic identity of the song. And then you have the chorus. Now the chorus is typically where people tend to go for the most simple, straightforward, tried and true chord progression. Once again, that's not what Olivia Rodrigo does here. Instead, she starts with a 2-5-1 progression that sounds like this. Those 3 chords are kind of the defining building block of jazz music, despite her not really using it in a jazzy way at all. But after that, where does she go? Back to her precious major 3 chord. Probably technically a dominant 3 chord, but we won't get into that. This isn't a music theory video. The second time around, she could just repeat that. It sounds fine. But she decides to switch it up. This time, she puts that major 4 into minor 4 switch at the beginning of the progression. And then at the very end, on the closing lines of the chorus, she once again repeats that major 4 to minor 4 movement. So you can see how in just those 2 sections, that major 3 chord and that minor 4 chord, both from outside the key, not super common chords in pop music, but they really give the song that angsty, brooding feel that she's going for. So there you go. To me, Vampire signifies a movement towards pop music with a more complex harmonic structure. The musician in me absolutely loves that. So I commend her for doing this. I think it's a brilliant move, and it helps mark a significant turning point, I hope, knock on wood, in pop music. So what do you think? Is Vampire the brilliant song I say it is? Or am I completely delusional? Let me know in the comments, and if there's a song that you think I should break down and analyze, feel free to tell me that as well. If you like this breakdown and analysis, please, please, please subscribe to the channel. It really goes a long way and helps out a lot. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.